Welcome back, Filmholics. My name is Kyle Kendrick, but in this channel you find anything and everything filmmaking. So today, I give my 2 cents on Sony's other new camera. Who knew they were gonna just send another camera out? Like, they're just throwing cameras this year. It's good, it's just wild. I love it. But it is called the Sony a7c. So the a7c is in a very weird spot. And I say that kind of lightly, especially since it's actually an impressive thing what they did with it. But it's still weird, being that it's the a7 III put into a smaller body, and it's cheaper. But that being said, with everything that's happened with the a7S III, it's like, why didn't they add anything new? They added some extra stuff, and it's basically based for content creators. But I'll tell you more about that in just a second. So let me just do a quick little rundown on the spec line of this camera. It's basically a 24 megapixel sensor, which is basically the same one that they had from the a7 III. It also has 1080p and 4K, and in 4K you can only do 24 frames per second, and in 1080p I believe it's 60 frames and 120 frames per second is the highest you could go. But that's still impressive in my opinion because their sensors are great. The bitrate though, that's the next thing. It's not 10-bit. It is still 420 8-bit. And that makes me sad, especially since the a7S III is 10-bit, and I thought they would try and deliver that to their lower camera, but they didn't. Some other things that it has is basically the micro HDMI cable that you used to get with all Sony cameras before the Sony a7S III, and also it has a full articulate screen, which is nice because, you know, vlogging and content creating is getting just in a big boom these days, so that's good too. Another thing is there's no recording limit, and that's probably the biggest part for long form content like podcasts and other things of that sort. And another thing that it has that I personally don't think is a con, because I don't use viewfinders, is that it has the same viewfinder as the APS-C line, not the middle one that you can get in their full frame line, which in my opinion, not a big deal because I don't use it. I never use a viewfinder. But if that's something that you kind of need a lot of the time, then yeah, I guess yeah. Also has only one SD card slot. I don't know why people are so into having dual card slots when they can't edit that high of a bitrate or that high of a resolution, but you know, whatever. I guess for the photographers where you could take a million pictures with the Sony camera, you could do that. I don't know. Oh, and before I forget, because I did forget this last one, is that it still has the eye autofocus that you can get with all their cameras in a smaller body that's also full frame. It's honestly a kind of upgrade to my camera right now. I'm kind of thinking about getting that, selling this, and having the a7S III and the a7C as a like main and B camera. Now you get all of these specs from the a7 III into a smaller body for $1,800, and that's not something to laugh about. $200 extra for the a7 III, and you get $200 less for the a7C, you might be able to just get that and get an amazing lens, because lenses are more important, in my personal opinion, to the camera itself. Another thing to mention is that Jaron Dunn made a very good point about this camera. It is a very important camera due to the fact that it minimizes technology. And the crazy thing that everyone doesn't really see, in my opinion, is that is very impressive towards the future, because that means they can eventually minimize the a7S III into a possibly an APS-C body. That's just insane to me, because that means that more consumers can deal with 10-bit, 4K, and 120p in 4K with minor crop, but you know, we can forgive them for that. But still, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Just what that means in the future. So basically, to round this all out, to get to the point of the video, I personally think that if the Sony a7 III didn't come out, I would have totally gotten the the a7C, sorry. It's so many A7s now these days, but that's not a bad thing in my opinion. So there hasn't been that many new comments this past week of not recording, so I'm not really gonna be talking about the comments in this particular video, but I'm pretty sure I will, especially since I'm about to hit the 500 mark. And I honestly cannot wait to hit that because I want to do a kind of special thing in the channel, but we'll get to that when I hit 500. Yeah. So like and subscribe and dream on.